So when I was at CIA, there was a brief period of time where General Petraeus became the director of CIA. And General Petraeus was somebody who had a phenomenal fitness record. Like, he had a reputation of being stoic and kind of untouchable. So CIA went through a process of vetting all of its officers to find out who would be qualified to exercise with the general, because he couldn't exercise with his friends because they didn't have clearance. So he would travel the world, and some of our officers in different parts of the world would have to travel to train with him, so that when he landed in London, he had training partners. And when he landed in Germany, he had training partners, or Africa, he had training partners, or Australia, he had training partners. So I was identified as one of his training partners when I was deployed in Southeast Asia.
Oh, sick.
It was pretty cool. So I got a chance to train with him. He would kick my ass every time. Like,
really?
He was an old, like 60-something-year-old man. He would out push up me, out sit up me. He was a machine, physical machine. Totally, yeah. All the rumors are true about his physicality. However, I will say he did the exact same workout every day.
So he had a little edge.
So he had an edge, and he's been doing the same workout since he was like 38 years old. So it's just hard to keep up with a guy who's got that kind of muscle memory. Either way, I had this conversation with him where I was like, you know, why is it that people are so focused on your physical fitness all the time? I was like, when you were in charge of all of CENTCOM, when you were in charge of the entire like military conflict through the global war on terror, it was like when you were deciding what we were going to do in Iraq, why was everybody talking about your physical fitness regime? Like, why did every troop in your command talk about that? And he told me, and I was like, they talk about it, but you don't talk about it. It's like, why don't you talk about it? And he told me that one of the key pillars of influence for a leader is an understanding when you need to let the myth speak for you. And I think that's what you're seeing right now with Donald Trump.
Really?
Let the myth speak for you. Because as soon as you say something, you're actually taking power away from the public, like, subconscious,
right,
as it grows out of control. And you start to be the one that limits it.
And the fantasy can be much greater than the reality of what happened.
I was talking to a movie director not that long ago. We've got a book that we're trying to get through CIA's review process so that we can get our book out. I was telling you about this on Flagrant too. It's still in motion, but our film rights were up for sale. So we've taken bidders. We've successfully sold film and TV rights to our story, even though our story can't be published.
Damn,
that sucks. But I was talking to a movie director who was explaining to me, why is it that most new directors create low-budget horror films first? Have you heard this before? Have I told you this before?
Mm-mm.
So why is it that most new movie directors create low-budget horror films first? And he was like, because it's cheaper and scarier to film an open door to a dark room than it is to film an open door to a dark room with a monster in it.
Right. This is Jaws.
It's every horror movie out there, because once you can see the scary thing, it's less scary. But when it's just a black door, like an open door to a black room, we fill in the scariest thing in our minds into that door.
And that's a big production company inside your head.
Yes.
Billions of dollars that's making that movie.
So you let the myth speak for you because it speaks louder.
I'm with you, but at the same time, I'm like, when has Trump ever let the myth speak for him? You know what I mean? Like, I just don't see that in the character of this guy. And he's already 100 years old, and I don't think he's changing. You know what I mean? Like, he is who he is.
He's always let the myth speak for him, man. He's always called attention to distract so that the real myth can... I mean, we don't know how much money he actually has. We don't know how much taxes he actually pays.
Mm-hmm.
The whole time that he was on The Apprentice, nobody knew what he was going to do, right? It's always the scuttlebutt.
Yeah, but to that point, I'm like, okay, he probably has like $2 billion or whatever, and he went on stage and he's like, I have 5 billion, 10 billion. Like, he's saying numbers that are bigger. So like, in my mind, I'm like, he would just go on stage and be like, the Clintons tried to kill me. They couldn't do it. And then the arena goes crazy, and he would just use that as his marketing. And he hasn't said a word, and that makes me think that he knows, oh shit, like this could have gone really sideways. And maybe it was like maybe it was a security issue in a small town in Pennsylvania, which I think is completely reasonable. You know what I mean? Like, these small towns are going to have like worse security details. But I think he also knows a little part of him's like, oh, this could happen again, and maybe they could do it better. And whether it's just like a bad actor out there, or maybe, someone put this kid up to it, who knows? But part of me wonders if he's like a little shaken.
There's also going to be an element of if you're going to play that card, when you play that card, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to play the card, and here's the thing, like there could be zero evidence to substantiate that any American organization had anything to do with it, right? Like you've joked about the Clintons. There could be zero evidence to substantiate it, but if he makes that claim in the last 3 weeks before the election, it plays different than if he makes that claim now 3 months before the election.
That's a good point.
Right? So you never know what they're keeping in reserve too. That's a campaign manager thing. Keep in mind also, you haven't seen any Trump hate ads against Kamala Harris, but you've seen hate ads against Donald Trump funded by Kamala Harris.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And the reason for that is twofold. One, because all of the budget that the Republican Party put into supporting Donald Trump was attack ads against Joe Biden. So when Joe Biden said, "I'm not going to run for president," all that money, all those ads all went obsolete.
Yeah.
So they had to now create a campaign, a strategy, and then create ads to go against Kamala Harris.
Interesting.
Which is exactly why you saw Kamala Harris was endorsed by Joe Biden. Within 10 days, you started seeing Kamala Harris ads everywhere. On YouTube, on TV, in magazines, everywhere, right? Her promoting, trying to get fundraising, et cetera, et cetera. You saw it everywhere, but you saw nothing from the Trump campaign. Because they strategically, campaign manager shit, the campaign manager for the DNC was like, hey, if we can keep this quiet for 10 days or so, we'll be able to launch a whole campaign for Kamala before the Trump campaign can even react to the fact that Joe Biden endorsed her. So we're still seeing that transition. Once those faucets are turned on, which will probably be in the next couple of weeks, then we'll see a more apples to apples comparison.
Oh, that's so interesting.
So fresh on me.